One of the players that was told to leave Celtic at Christmas time looks like he's getting his wish. That's not really his wish, was it? He wanted to go and play first team football. But Gustaf Lagerbielke, looks like his Celtic days are numbered, or are they? Because it looks like he might be going out on loan this season. Doesn't look like he will be sold. It looks like we're going to get rid of him on loan, which I'm not too sure if it's a good deal for him or not. I hope there's an option to buy for Gustaf to leave Celtic, because I think he's been given the runaround. And I mean, people will say, look, it's a great deal for Celtic and go out and get some first team experience. He was a first team player before he came to Celtic. He was the best defender in the league. And Celtic have just, in my opinion, they've just halted the young lad's career. He's came in, he was obviously coming in when Celtic thought they were going to lose Cameron Carter-Vickers last season. And we needed someone, and Liam Scales wasn't going to be at the club. Let's face it, the two of them were brought in to be first choice defenders, and it didn't work out. And nothing's been signed yet, but both parties involved are working on a solution. Talks took place yesterday in Glasgow. So talks have taken place, and it looks like that Gustaf Lagerbielke might be leaving the door. And we wish him luck, and I just hope there's an option to buy or an obligation to buy, because I think that he's been given the runaround. And other reports, there is a Celtic linked player that's handed in a transfer request. Yep, the young Norwich, 21-year-old, Norwich again, Jesus. 21-year-old has handed in a transfer request. The young forward has been linked with Celtic before, but the way that Celtic are playing, will Celtic get in 5 players within the next 10 days? A lot of people are saying not a frigging chance, and they're having a chance that with loan players. But Norwich forward Abdou Kamara has handed in a transfer request. There are Championships clubs to believe monitoring the situation. He's 1 year left on his deal, which is kind of the time that Celtic go sniffing about players, isn't it? So that they get them for the a decent bit of money. And if you can get him to come in and he's a third choice striker, will he want to be third choice striker? Let's face it, he's not been too happy about coming off the bench at Norwich. So therein lies the problem that Celtic has. Unless he's a utility player that can play in several positions, might make Celtic want to move from him. But when players are going to come to Celtic, if he's going to be told, look, you're going to be third choice striker, he's going to go, fuck that. I had that pish at Norwich, mate. Do you know what I mean? I had that pish at Norwich. Anyway, the big news, obviously, over the last 24 hours is the Matt O'Reilly situation. They are in talks, but it has been suggested this morning by someone in the media that Matt O'Reilly has informed Celtic that he wants to join Brighton if a deal can be agreed. It's gone from Football Insider, but I don't tend to take too much notice of Football Insider because they do come out with some absolutely BS headlines sometimes. But with a formal bid of 25 million, including significant add-ons, it looks like it is the end game for Matt O'Reilly, which is, it's only a matter of time now until he is given permission to head down the road. Celtic, on the other hand, will need to get a replacement in. Will they go back to Manchester United? And it'll not be for McTominay. Will they go back for the one and only Hannibal? Remember Hannibal, he was linked with Celtic earlier on in the window. Celtic didn't make any moves for the player. I think they were waiting to see if the Matt O'Reilly situation was going to be resolved one way or the other. But Celtic will definitely need to get in a significant type of player to appease the Celtic fans, I would have thought. And not just that, to make sure that we're better going into the Champions League. Paulo Bernardo doesn't have the experience that I think is required for the top level. It was shown last year that a lot of the players that played in the Champions League, Gustaf Lagerbielke, as young as he was in the Champions League, he scored with a header. He was a defender that scored with a header in the Champions League for us. And at the same time, O played in one of those games, but then O is gone also. We also remember that we've got money for O this season. When you look at the players that have left the building, we are in a worse position than we were at the end of the season. Sadly to say, when you look at the first team squad, it doesn't make for pretty reading. And as it stands, with 10 days to go to the end of the transfer window, there is still a lot of meat on the bone that needs trimmed off. There is a lot of fat in the bone that needs trimmed off in the Celtic squad. Players that just aren't going to make it. Players that aren't going to make us better this year. Players that have been here for a few years and, let's face it, really need to be moved on. When you look at the goalkeeper situation, you've obviously got Kasper Schmeichel as our number 1. And then you have, and this is where it gets interesting, because you've got Sinisalo, who is our number 12. And then Scott Bain is now our number 29. I'm not sure if that was his number before. I think it was. But he's now third choice goalkeeper. Is that good enough for Scott Bain? And look at this. Realistically, Scott Bain could leave Celtic and walk into any other team in the SPFL. And that's fact. Scott Bain could leave Celtic tomorrow and walk into any other team in the SPFL. He's getting kept in the background because we do need him for the Scottish contingent. When you look at the defenders, we've got Alistair Johnston. He's a keep all day long. Greg Taylor. Well, Greg Taylor, the man, the myth, the legend that is going to be called Greg Taylor. Because let's face it, he's watched them come and he's watched them go, has Greg Taylor. And Gustaf Lagerbielke looks like he is leaving the building in the next couple of days. And then you've got Liam Scales. Liam Scales was one of the stars of last season. And I said it would be the star because the rest of the players just weren't up to it. And it was good to see that he progressed so much as a player. But can he take the next step this season? Big Norobski, Big Mark. Can he stay fit enough over the space of a season, because he was injured a lot last season? He's now injured again going into the start of this season. It's going to take a while for him to get back and fit. Will he be able to fight it out with Liam Scales and Cameron Carter-Vickers to get a position in the back of that defence? And then there's Kobayashi that seems to be a man missing from Celtic lineup wherever we go. And then there's Cameron Carter-Vickers. He's the number 1 all day long with Tony Ralston and Stephen Welsh. I mean, when you look at the players that has been brought in by the previous manager, they just do not be able to cut the mustard at this level. Anyway, Odom Ohm, I mean, he's in and around the team, but will he turn into any kind of Celtic player whatsoever? Can he cut it? Of course he'll be able to cut it, but I mean, when you look at the players that have came in and done nothing, he's in that list of players. And then you got Tomoki Iwata, who's just sitting patiently in the background. Is Tomoki Iwata going to be happy enough sitting in the background for another season until Callum McGregor gets taken off and then he gets to come on? Anyway, Paulo Bernardo, he's here on the 5-year deal. And then you need to remember we've got Liam Shaw, English player Liam Shaw, who has been out on loan a couple of times and he's just never managed to get into the Celtic team, the first team at all. Question marks will be put on him. Will he be put out on loan against this season like he was last season? Will Celtic try and cash in on the asset? And then one asset that we are going to cash in on massively is the one and only Matt O'Reilly, our number 33. Although Rio Hatate, our number 41, has been linked with the one and only Leicester, it could be quite a few players leaving that midfield this summer. The one and only Callum McGregor, our captain, won't be going anywhere, as is James Forrest. James Forrest, who's been around the block that many times, you're going to call him Grandad, Papa Smurf. That's James Forrest's new name, the Papa Smurf. Papa Smurf for the squad. And then when we get to the forwards, we've got Lewis Palmer who comes on to great effect, but we all think that Lewis Palmer needs to do just a little bit more, be that little bit less greedy, and I think he'd get a first team start all day long. And then there's Kyogo, our number 8, who may be missing for up to 4 months. It depends on what he decides to do with his shoulder. You know, the very next game, every defender is going to take a run at him and just shoulder charge him, and the rest going to go, it's a shoulder charge. You know, it wasn't, and he's going to go down onto that shoulder. And he's going to be out again. But then we have quite a good replacement. Replacement that comes from Ireland. Yes, the one and only Adam Ida. The big man, will he get his first start for Celtic this weekend? It's a big week for him. And then we've got Nico Kuhn, who is coming into game. You've got to remember, Nico, when he came back in January, he was injured for the first month or so. He did lose a lot of weight. He lost a bit of stone in weight, which for a guy in his bulk is a lot of weight that he needs to get back on. But we look to be seeing the best of Nico Kuhn going into this season. And then there's Yang, who is always in and around the team, but I don't. Between him and Lewis Palmer, who would you say was the best between Lewis Palmer and Yang? Tell me that in the comments. And then we've got Dyson, the actual rocket of a man that can just fly past players. Sometimes his crosses can be a bit woeful from the side, but as a striker, Well, as a third choice striker, will that save Celtic money this transfer window? Brendan Rodgers said he wanted to bring in 2 strikers. Will Brendan Rodgers have to make do with Dice Maida as the third choice striker? And then there's the Mikey Johnson question, the last person in the squad, the last person in this first team, the number 90, MJ90. I think Mikey Johnson will leave this window also, because let's face it, he got the bug for playing first team football last season. They did quite well, and I think for £6 million, Celtic are going to be in financial heaven come the end of this transfer window if we do not go out and spend the best part of 15 to 20 million in the next 10 days. Fans will go absolutely bonkers with the fact that the board once again will have put us in a position. We're going into the Champions League, we're no better off. Now, players that are loaned out is the one and only player that came in to take away the position of Greg Taylor. And that was Alexandro Bernabe. And I so much wanted Alexandro Bernabe to come in and have a fantastic Celtic career, not only for the fact that he comes from Argentina, and anyone that used to go to the away games when the one and only ex-England captain was manager up in Inverness, the cries of Argentina at the away games was absolutely fabulous. That was brilliant times. Kwon has gone to Hibernian, sorry. Kwon has left. He was at St Mirren last season, and he's away to Hibernian. You would think that Celtic would just sell him. He's been out on loan for 2 seasons now. You know, he's not going to come back to the club and do anything. All it does is it takes his value, his market value down further, if you ask me. And then there's Marco Tilio, who is still back in Australia, and he is on loan until June next year. Marco, the Wizard of Oz, didn't turn out to be the Wizard of Oz, did he? He's back in Australia. And then there's one and only Johnny Kenny. A lot of people are saying, get Johnny Kenny back and make him the third choice striker. Brendan Rodgers wanted him to get out and get some game time. He has been put out on loan again. But this is where it gets interesting, Celtic fans. He's only loaned out until the 30th of November. Yes, he is only loaned out until the 30th of November this year, which means that Johnny Kenny will come back to Celtic in November. Will he be able to come back? We know that he is scoring goals in the League of Ireland at the moment, and he's played some Champions League qualifiers games where he's played quite good. Will he come back to Celtic a better player? Will he be able to kickstart his Celtic career from there on? I don't know, but we need players in.